Let a record show that a quorum is present and notice of this meeting has been legally posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Board Member James Montoya is traveling out of state and will not be joining us today. Board Member Mindy Winslow will be joining us via Zoom. Please remember that items do not have to be taken in order shown on the agenda, and please join us in turning your cell phones to silent mode. We welcome your attendance tonight, whether you are here in person or if you've joined us via Zoom. The first item on our agenda tonight is an executive closed session. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act and as allowed by Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 5:02 p.m. The board is now reconvening into open session at 6:21 p.m. I will ask Reverend Irvin to give us the invocation tonight.
May we pray. Father, how thankful we are for this again privilege to set and govern school board affairs. We thank you for the opportunity. We pray your guidance, our thoughts, our words. We pray that all we do will give you glory. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Dr. Trujillo, will you lead us in the pledges to our flags tonight?
Absolutely. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. And we will continue to let Dr. Trujillo have the floor for this month's Good News.
Thank you, President Finch and board. Wanted to share, Karina Hernandez is a national champion. Back in May, we had Karina and her classmates join us in the board meeting after they won state gold medals at the Skills USA Cosmetology Contest. Last month, Karina won gold medal for barbering at the national level. Karina is a member of the class of 2021 that just graduated in May from Nacogdoches High School. Also, Anna Roa won a bronze medal in the aesthetics competition. Anna just completed her junior year at NHS and will be a member of the class of 2022. Congratulations to Karina and Anna for their incredible accomplishments, and congratulations to Juan Holland and the cosmetology instruction for at the high school for the tremendous job that's done. They've done there. Also, online registration is open this week for all NISD students. The portal can be found on the district's website at nacisd.org. And parents with an email address should also receive information from the district. Any parent not receiving that email should contact the registrar at their child's school. That information can also be found at the district's website. While it's still July and the start of the next school year is coming up, oh, so soon. Next week, NISD principals and administrators will gather for a retreat over a couple of days at Nacogdoches County Civic Center. The week after that, our new teachers will be with the district, followed soon by our returning staff, the rest of the returning staff. The district is also holding its convocation at the competition gym at Nacogdoches High School at 10 a.m. Friday, August 13th. Without giving away too many details, I know there will be door prizes, there'll be gift bags and all kinds of fun that we missed out from last year. I look forward to seeing everyone back together as we prepare for the start of the classes, which will begin on Monday, August 23rd. There's lots of back to school activities taking place all over the next 4 weeks. Meet the teacher, open house. It's all exciting time. So we invite our parents to watch and look at their child's calendar at the school and get details off the campus marquees. So
Thank you, sir. We'll now move to the public comment portion of our agenda. Those wishing to address the board during our public comment have emailed a request to the district earlier today. The comment request form was due by 4 p.m. This is a revised procedure that was included and made part of the meeting notice. If you wish to speak at a future one of our board meetings, please make note of the instructions on the meeting notice on how to sign up for that request. We do have one speaker tonight. The time limit will be 3 minutes for each person addressing the board. And Reverend Irvin will keep the time for us today. I should say and we appreciate him pitching in to help. Miss Winslow, our board secretary, would normally be doing that for us, but she is joining us via Zoom tonight. So, and we appreciate your extra, your time, Mindy, and joining us via Zoom. So with that, Miss Oneida Brown, are you with us? There you are. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. She's making her way to the podium.
Good evening. I am here representing the community on the matter of renaming the Malcolm Rector Technical High School after Ms. Chumbley. My name is Oneida Brown. I'm a nursing home administrator. I'm a social worker. I'm a community member, SFA alumni, NISD graduate, and a Head Start graduate. I'm here to read anonymous testimony, excuse me, I'm a little nervous, from those in the community. Number one, I'm starting my 4th year of teaching in NAC ISD and I'm at McMichael. Most would say we would have the rougher crowd of the 2 middle schools. Mrs. Chombley has been on our campus consistently for the past 3 years, and I know a lot more. I just haven't been there. We can't keep substitutes. Our babies run them off. That's just what they do. Not only does she come back, but our kids love and enjoy her. I would be more than happy to write a letter and have plenty of my coworkers do the same on her behalf to get Rector named after her. Number two, as an educator in NAC ISD, I have firsthand seen the impact Ms. Chumbley has made on the students in the community. It would be the greatest honor to have a building named after her. As a former teacher and now her being a current substitute, they are so vital to the school system. Not sure why that was brought up in the meeting as if the job wasn't important. Number three, not only does Ms. Chumbley deserve this, she deserves so much more. I was a troubled child that was faced with a lot of obstacles in my life after losing my parents. And at a very young age, I just didn't see a purpose in learning or being there. I wasn't interested at all. And when I didn't understand something that was being taught, I would easily give up. Mrs. Chumbley corrected me, and it took tough love to do so. Not only did she tell me that education was very important, she showed me and helped me to understand the importance. She was very patient with me and didn't judge me or call me out. She would stay in class during lunch and give me a better understanding of what she was teaching. And after doing so, it was all so simple. It's hard to open up and tell a teacher what's bothering you or what you don't understand at some point. I was very uncomfortable, but I gained her trust. I can't thank her enough. Not only was she my teacher, she was like my school grandmother that I didn't have. If she didn't deserve this, I wouldn't say a word, but she does, and so much more. I'm sickened that we even have to fight for what God has in his plan for her. The school should be named the Margie Chumbley Academy for Success. Number four, Mrs. Chumbley was an ever-present constant during my years in NISD. There is no one who loves the students more or who is more deserving in the community of having a school named after her. Lastly, Ms. Chumbley changed my life forever when I was growing up. I didn't have the right crowd nor the right guidance until I met her. Growing up, I had it rough and sought the wrong attention in the classroom until one day she stepped in and gave me the tough love I'm still grateful for today. Ever since that day, whenever she was my sub, I'd sit right beside her and listen to all her stories, and at all times, she would give me advice and life lessons that I really need to change my life around. She was the only teacher who really just knew my name and cared to know me. And I never got to thank her for all she has done for me because I moved. If you could, please tell her thank you for changing my life and that I love her so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We
Yes.
appreciate you being with us tonight for those comments. All right, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, all items listed will be acted on with one motion. If there's a board member who wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda separately, please indicate the agenda letter and it will be set aside for further discussion in a separate vote. Right, hearing none, I will open the floor for a motion.
Madam President, I move the board approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Nirmon. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Apt. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Mindy? Okay, well, she's raising her hand for those in the audience, so she's an aye. So that's a unanimous vote. Thank you so much. We will now proceed with items from the discussion action portion of the agenda. The first item is consideration of renaming Malcolm Rector Technical High School.
Madam President, if I may say a few words.
Let me.
Go ahead.
Let me go ahead and we're going to pull this item from tonight's agenda, not because of who is being recommended. I want to emphasize that. It's because, and I'm going to be completely transparent because I want everybody to understand the steps of the process. The confusion that was created on Monday when the questions surrounding the recommendation was not about who was being recommended. It was about the process of how the recommendation was being made. We have a local policy, CW local. It states a recommendation for naming or renaming a district facility shall be submitted to the superintendent as a detailed written proposal that includes the reason for the naming or renaming of the facility, the background or history supporting the proposed name, the cost for naming or renaming the facility, along with a proposal for covering the cost, any other applicable considerations such as security, installation, maintenance of any monument, statue, plaque, or other structure to be associated with the dedication of the facility. This step was not done. Policy CW local continues. If the superintendent approves the proposal, the superintendent shall appoint a committee that includes the superintendent or designee, a board member, a representative of the campus or facility that would be named or renamed if the proposal is accepted, a representative of the business office, a representative of the maintenance department, a representative of the district police department, and a community representative. The policy continues. The committee shall review the proposal and revise or generate an alternate proposal if appropriate. The committee shall submit to the board a written recommendation with a time frame prescribed by the board. We received a verbal report from the committee. But the committee, the first step of that policy had not been completed. By advice of our legal counsel, we cannot take action on this item tonight because we've not followed district policy. We are, however, asking Dr. Trujillo to revisit this issue to bring us into compliance with policy and to bring that recommendation back to us by the next, when I'm going to say at the next regular meeting of this board. Mr. Neerman.
Yes, my name is Farshid Niruman. I was one of those people that questioned the nominees. That was not because of Ms. Chombley. I know Ms. Chombley. I worked with her at high school. I worked at high school for 36 years. We crossed paths with each other. We greeted each other. I know what kind of a person she is. I have always respected and admired her. However, my question was the procedure, the process. Before I become a board member, there was always rumors that something going on and nobody knows. They don't go by the book. So when I became a board member, as always that I practiced, I want to do the things the way it should be done and the right ways. The right ways was reading the CW locals and also recommendation procedures or process. If we do these things right, correctly, in the future, we don't have any other problems or second guessing or having conversation about how and why. I want to make sure that people understand, yes, I am a good friend. I love and respect, admire, and Ms. Brown, I feel exactly the same word that you say toward Ms. Champley. I want to be very clear on that. It was not opposition to her nominee. It was opposition to the way we worked it, if I'm clear.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Madam President, for just clarity, could you describe how exactly will Ms. Chumley's recommendation be handled in the future?
I'm going to refer to Superintendent Trujillo.
What we're going to do is, we received everything in verbal. And what I will be doing is providing it in written format to the board. And then at that point, we will convene with the committee. I want to make sure that it's clear that the intent is in policy already. And in our review, there is nothing that needs to change in policy. There's nothing there that needs to change. The board feels that the policy is sound and just needs to be done the way policy said that we were going to do it. And really what it does is protect for years to come. And for those of us that know, and you're seeing the issue across when it comes to naming of facilities, it's constantly occurring. So this archives the process. It archives to the board as to the recommendations from this administration as to naming the school and moving forward. So what, Reverend, what you will see is in the process is taking this and providing it in written format to the board so that we can celebrate and do the things that we're talking about with the individual. So it's just simply that portion of it to archive it so it goes into records. And this will be the process that we will use this point forward in renaming or naming locations.
So will it be open for other recommendations or nominations?
For the
naming?
presentation. At this point, what I'm doing is just taking the current work that we have done, and I'm going to be putting that into written format. I will be providing it to the committee for them to give us an official vote from all members, so that way they have it clear. If you noticed, if you tuned in on Monday, there was some uncertainty. There was a little bit of uncertainty as to the process and what was going on. What was the purpose? Some of that needs to be discussed. What is it going to cost to do all of this? By the way, it has to happen. We can't have two Malcolm Rectors. And we'd love to have it, but we can't have two Malcolm Rector locations. So we are going to rename it. We are going to have the cost of raising that. So we have to have some information to provide to the board as to what that's going to cost and the purpose. We know why. And so to answer your question, the nominee is there. We just need to put the writings to it, put the paperwork to it, and then come back and present that to the board.
I will add that I have not had the honor of meeting Mrs. Chumley,
Yes.
but I have thoroughly enjoyed learning about her and would just understand that When we received that information on Monday, we received no biographical information on Mrs. Chumley. And I look forward to learning more about her.
Absolutely.
Mindy, talk loud.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say, similar to what you said, I didn't know Mrs. Chumley until I asked my daughters about her, and they just glowed with, oh, she is absolutely my favorite. So we love her. So once I started hearing them talk about her, I was like, oh, wow, okay. But I didn't know her until that moment. So that's, I just wanted to say that to the family. My children have been impacted by this lovely lady, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? All right. We'll move to item B, consideration of endorsement of candidate for TASB Board of Directors. And I'm going to open the floor for a motion.
Madam President, I move that the board support Ben Donaldson as our endorsement candidate for TASB Board of Directors for Region 7.
Thank you, Dr. Groman. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Naramond. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, Mindy. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam President, for public information, he is a superintendent at Carthage High School. On Carthage ISD.
Board member, I believe. isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
All right, next on the agenda, we have reports, and the first item is a construction update. Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin, just real quick while he's getting set up, just to give a little bit of details, President Finch and board. We do have Army in the room. We do have Ralph. Ralph, where's Ralph? There's Ralph. We have Army, we do have Ralph in the room. You'll be getting a great update. I want to make sure that we look closely to the completion dates that we're looking at. That's the big component to our community out there to know exactly where we're at when it comes to completion. Completion meaning moving students into the facilities and being able to move there. A lot of times you can see a little triangle. We'll have some ceremonial things that occur with ribbon cuttings and all of that, that will be pretty close to that little triangle of moving in. But some of that has adjusted. So be patient with the data that you see. Hopefully you'll be able to see it very clearly. I know the folks that are online may be able to have a better look of the document than what is being presented in here. So if you need to situate yourself in a way, those of you that are in here that kind of look at that, you'll see some updated information. And by the way, if I could, can I have Army, can I have you and Ralph come over here on this side? It'll help us. I'm very certain there's going to be questions. And there's 2 chairs right there, and that'll give us, so we don't have to wait.
Mindy?
So,
I don't think I'm going to be able to see you when he does that screen share. So you're going to have to really talk loud and get my attention.
Okay.
Or maybe-
oh yeah, you will.
Oh,
She pops up right on top.
well, I think it's whoever's talking is going to pop up.
Oh, yeah.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo, it gives me great pleasure and honor to give a construction update this evening, July 22nd, 2021. If you'll recall, our last update was in, I believe, April 21st. So this time we decided to do a little, pretty much the same format, but a little bit different. The first screen that we bring up is the projected construction schedule. Not a few things have changed on this document. I want to thank again, Mr. Army Curtis, Mr. Ralph LaRue, and Ms. Cindy Robertson for working on this document, getting it together for us. If you look at the top, what you see is Emmeline Carpenter, the new Emmeline Carpenter, and the progress of the Carpenter project over there. We are looking at a potential move-in date still of somewhere around the Christmas break of this coming school year. When we come down that sheet, we look at McMichael Middle School. It is progressing right along. About the same time, a little after maybe, that project will be completed as well. And we have several plans we have different plans for bringing our students in and orienting the 6th and 7th grades classes to that building prior to the first year that they will be there permanently. Coming down the line there a little bit are some priority maintenance projects that are already going on. And I'm going to show you quite a few pictures tonight of some of this activity that has been happening since the last time we all met and had an update here. Moving on down, we will see the progress of the Fredonia Pre-K project. We just started the drive, the parent pickup drive, and we have some good photos of that, as well as the new Malcolm Rector CTE Center of Innovation. We're going to take a look at that. We have actually move-in date of this summer. However, we're using that building partially to store some of the items as we renovate the bays over at the existing high school CTE programs.
Michael, could you do me a favor up at the top, the little black box? Can you move that down? This one that says it's talking. Okay, for the sake of full transparency, we had data that's being blocked back there.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that we know that that little box is back there. We have a proposed time of movement in December. However, in a movement from a campus in December, there's a lot of questions we have to ask ourselves. Teachers give up holidays. Is that what we're talking about? Are they moving during a holiday break? That's not going to happen, giving up your Christmas break and doing a move. So if we are making a move there, where is that move going to happen? We can't do it during Christmas break. There are some things we can do that doesn't involve the teacher, but there are some other things that we may need to do a transition, a slower transition. Or also the option is, because you'll probably hear from Ralph, that's the proposed time frame. But we don't know what the time frame is going to happen. And I will tell you, I've had this conversation with Dr. Hill. After December, we're getting into testing season. We're getting into instructional measurements of what's happening. So will we have to do something more strategic as far as movement of kids so that we may not do a full move into Carpenter based on the timeline being pushed out? But we may be able to take our 3rd graders up there and be able to move slowly and transition our kids from the existing Carpenter. Those are all conversations we're going to have to look at when we get to Carpenter.
I'd like to pause there for a minute and say seems like every time you guys make a report, the date on Carpenter has been pushed again. I'm not obviously. I can't express disappointment enough that our kids, I mean, we went in with an expectation that we were going to have kids in that building this fall. And I know those teachers and those kids are so looking forward to this new facility. So how solid is that's a new date, November. How solid is that, Ralph? Yeah.
I'm not sure. Good evening, President. superintendent and board. I'm not sure I'd take it to the bank. I'm not going to put sugar on it for you. It's been a hard construction season or two. The perfect storm of construction issues. We're now getting into some significant supply delays, kitchen equipment. We've met and we've met and we've met. There are a lot of parties involved, engineers, architects, contractors, 80 different subs that are all in agreement that that's a doable date. Now, they were also all the same people that agreed on the last date. We are, at Carpenter, we are over most of the heavy construction thresholds and things that really cause some delays. Again, not sugarcoating it. The team, Cindy, Army, and I, we have discovered a couple of things that we're not satisfied with on the construction side. One may mean tearing out some walls and starting over basically on one section. So
Well, you must. be
even with
reading-
that, they feel they can hit that date.
You must be reading my mind, because the next concern when you see that is, do they start cutting corners to,
We have been very diligent. We've moved our walkthroughs up to once a week. Very intense, hostile walkthroughs every Tuesday. We have third parties, Army leading that group, protecting our interest, plans in hand, standards in hand, and, everything is being looked at. We have set aside some negotiations and discussions which may further strain our relationship with our contractors, solely to protect the integrity of construction so that the subs aren't getting leaned on
Mhm.
unduly to
Yeah,
produce.
that would be a worst case scenario that,
Fortunately, we have some of the subs that we've worked with in the past, local, semi-local, regional, that we've worked with in various different jobs. So we've got kind of a backdoor channel from the subs directly to us. And so far, there hasn't been any significant quality things. The issue I spoke of earlier is simply they just got the wrong drywall material. No big deal, we just change it out, but somebody's got to do that. So it's a tough construction environment right now. Labor, supplies.
Could you elaborate? I know Mr. Martin and I talked about this. Let's just look at the top line, that blue line. You have a dark blue line and it turns light. The dark blue line ends in May. So that means that activity-wise, progression-wise, we are in July, but they are actually at the May completion time.
Yeah, and
Give her time, that little slide.
you
just
may
a little
want
bit.
Army to talk to the color schemes. I don't fall on that side, he does. I'm turnkey ready. Don't give me any of this crap of substantially complete, because I don't want your contractors in here when I got staff in here, and I don't want your contractors in here when I got employees. So if we take over the building, that forces the contractor to work in evenings and weekends. And it's a ridiculous scenario to put them in, because it's the tail end of a job. So that's, Army, you want to speak?
So Army, is that, just so the board will understand that this chart,
Yes.
that if you look at even the red, we look at down at McMichael, and you see the red, dark red line.
looks like it's in April.
It's in April, we are in July, they're saying it's gonna kick out to October. So the red line, the bright red line is saying where they're at, they're behind schedule. And so when they're behind schedule, it kicks out that lighter red a
So-
little bit.
Yes, so there's, the way to read these bars is there's an overall length there. And the light blue in case of Carpenter represents the completion date as recognized by the contractor. So as we go through our meetings, we ask for updates in the schedule based on their projections. Okay. And that's what moves the end of the line. The dark color in each project represents the completion amount done towards the contract and is based on their pay applications that they have submitted. So, you could go in one part of the building, it might be a little closer to quote schedule, but overall it has to be treated as a whole. And so where these lines end up being as a percentage of completion of the whole, yes, you're correct. This document was based on data as of July 1st. Okay, we're in mid-July at this point. But as you still see, it is very indicative that even based on their completion date, their actual completion in the field differs as to what our date is today.
Thank you. That, President Finch, that's why when you asked the question, I wanted to make sure that that's the hard, fast date that they're giving. But if you look at the completion that Army's talking about
I'm
there.
glad you pointed that out. I don't think I would have
It's
picked
not,
up on that.
it's not where it needs to be at, so.
Yeah, we continue to work in trying to get a reconciliation schedule out of this contractor and that is one of the points of contention. It's hard to give you feedback when we cannot get that kind of information to us. So that's part of the struggle with these projects, at least. They have been given some hard, fast dates. McMichael is primary to that, where we have existing classrooms that will be taking students in, and that includes the cafeteria expansion, the weight room expansion, not necessarily the new classrooms, but we've been giving them, fast, hard dates that you got to be done, period. You got to be done because kids are coming back. And that includes the HVAC systems that are being remodeled at the same time. So some of these schedules that we see on a week-to-week basis are merely 3 to 4 weeks looking ahead. That's what they're giving us. But this is the overall shot.
So Dr. Trio, you were referencing if you get past December, and I want to pause because I'm afraid I'm going to forget this. I would love to hear from the teachers about how you tackle a move mid-year. But then also, are you inferring in your comments when you say about spring testing is that there's kind of a point to where your recommendation would be not to move?
Absolutely. I've had conversations with Dr. Hill. The teachers have worked tremendously hard to really measure the success of our kids. And I'll give you an example. When McMichael had the water, remember it went out, well, teachers were testing. And so they've done a lot of work, but things have to happen and it shifts. And that's what's going to happen. We get to a certain point in the calendar that we may not have the luxury of addressing it with our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, but we might be able to do something with the younger kids with 1st grade, 2nd grade. So we might find a point that we can occupy. I want to make sure it's clear. We're not going to leave that building empty. Whenever they get the certificate of occupancy and we have a key, Ralph is going to say we're good to go, then we're going to see what we need to do to start getting that transition over. However, we're not going to do it blindly because this year is a baseline. And if it's a baseline as to academic success of our kids, we need to have a true sense of where they are and not disrupt that in a move. There's nothing more stressful to a teacher than all of a sudden we've got gondolas coming in and a moving company and packing things up and putting it in there. Already it's going to be an interesting thing. I was not expecting December at all to be in this picture. And teachers deserve those 2 weeks of time to kind of refresh and rebuild and
Absolutely.
refill those buckets.
It's
And
family time.
yeah, we can't have them boxing up and moving during the Christmas break. So there's times that we're gonna have to be very creative in the move. The good thing is it's just one building, it's carpenter to carpenter. As we move forward, then we can address that in the summertime when we're doing it with redistricting and all of that, because there's other kids that may be joining carpenter. But for
And,
this purpose, that's what we're actually looking at.
Additionally, it's one building, one group of teachers, no furniture.
Yeah.
No technology. It's all, that's all going to be in place at the new carpenter. So we're boxing, they need to box up their materials, which I know is a lot for every teacher. And then we move that to their new designated room, but no furniture, which really similar to the move recently from this building to the new building.
Dr. Trujillo, so you're saying that possibly if Carpenter is ready, but it's at a very bad time, we might go ahead and move the first and second graders because they don't test and leave the third and fourth, fifth graders at the old Carpenter building. Is that what you're saying?
We may need to do
Isn't
something.
that going to be a nightmare for busing?
Well, Stacy's in the conversation with us. Matter of fact, we've met with the redistricting. It's how are we going to do the adjustments? We're going to run in that same scenario with McMichael and Mike Moses. When you look at the completion date for, you go down and look at Mike Moses and McMichael, because Mike Moses, we've got to give Ralph and his team access to Mike Moses because they've got to do work to Mike Moses to convert Mike Moses. So we've got to look at how can we be creative enough to maybe move a group of kids when McMichael was completely done. So the ideal thing is do the move in summer and be able to make the move. But our taxpayers, when they drive up and down that road and they see a building, I will tell you, that building better not be empty. We've made a commitment for a move. So we're going to be very strategic. I didn't mention kinder or pre-kinder because there's a move for that that's happening later in the summer once we get that completed, and that will be at Fredonia. So there's an adjustment of which kids can we make an adjustment, and that is the ongoing dialogue that we're going to have with the team. But in visiting with Dr. Hill and the teaching and learning staff, we want to protect the learning and the investment that our teachers have done for the students that are going to be in those areas. Like third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. And it's a window. It's not a long window. It's just a window that we don't want to disrupt that because once you move a group of kids and you're over there, all of a sudden it's kind of like you hit erase and it's gone with all the new car smell, the new building, the new playground, so we're going to be very, very strategic in the move that we have. But I wanted to make sure that you couldn't see it with that black box that's there. And I wanted to make sure that the board is aware that there is another target date that's there. And it's basically on what Army and Ralph has communicated. If you look at the dark blue line, they're in May, they're projecting to be done in November, but we're in July, so they're a month and a half back already. So that, and when Army says they may be going over, and Ralph says it may be going over, it's because we're running behind on the projects as they're doing this. I do need to commend both the gentlemen because McMichael will give you an example. Tim really appreciates the fact of those walks because his front office staff now have brand new HVAC. They have air conditioning, whereas they have been doing without their walks going in there constantly. We got to get this going. We got to get this going. They're leaning in and it's happening and they're listening to the group as we're going forward. So.
Dr. Trujillo, does spring break helps any at all?
Well, spring break is just as valuable as Christmas when it comes to the staff. I promise you there's some staff out there that's going to say, you know what, give me spring break, I'll move, I'll do all of that at that time. But I don't know because it also means availability. When we make this move, Ralph does not have the staff unless you've grown more. We've got to get with a private company. And I'm telling you, we can't even talk about that until we get this stop moving around and give us a hard fixed date. If we would have contracted out, start talking about the move based on what they gave us, the contract would have gone null and void. The date would not have been there. So it's also availability of when we go to that point as to making the move. Because these are not teachers moving their own things. They're dropping it in gondolas. Ralph doesn't have the staff. to move that. So we will have to contract out with a professional mover to get us relocated in. At the same time, remember, instruction stops completely. And everything's in a box. And now we're asking our teachers to go to a new building, unbox and start teaching on Monday morning. Oh, that's, it's gonna be a little interesting, so, yeah. But it can be done.
I want to just get it a little different perspective. There's many, many people in this community who love what we're doing in the bond and all that. And those workers never laid down their tools, and you guys never stopped. You still don't stop. And if it hadn't been for all the application, this line would not be this where it's at now. So I have to say thank you so much for the excellent job that y'all have done in guiding this procedure. Yes, we have disappointments, but you know, COVID brought a lot of disappointments to us. So let's make sure we celebrate the joy that we anticipate when we get the job done correctly. That's what this board wants, is a good job done correctly. And that's going to be not just for this generation that moves into it, but for all the generations that follow to move into these new facilities and update our total facility to improve the education process for each child in this district. And everybody will be happy after it's done. But we don't want to move into the shoddy thing. We want to, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And just tell them, thank you for not putting your tools down, but could you do a little faster? No, we can come out there with carrots. The board, we'll come out with carrot. No, I don't think that'll work. But I think we need to be serious, but we need to also be realistic. And the realistic thing is you guys have done a great job and are doing a great job. And we thank you for that. I thank you for that.
Madam President, if it pleases the board, we will move on. I was remiss when I began to let the superintendent and board know that Mr. Rick Bland is also on the Zoom with PBK, watching this as well. So let's take a look at Emmeline Carpenter Elementary School, the new Emmeline Carpenter. On January 29th, we reported to the board as well as the CBRIC this and showed these photographs here. This is where we were with the project construction. More photos on the 29th. If you take a look, now you can see a comparison of where we were on the 29th on the far left, where we were on April the 20th, when we gave our last bond update, and also where we were on the 15th here of this month, what it looks like. There's a tremendous amount of work that has been completed. As Mr. Curtis and Mr. LaRue referred, there's still a lot of work to be done, but there is progress being made. Here's
Have we dried out? We're dried out. Everything is inside now. Are they working inside now? So we're out of the weather. Okay.
This photograph here, the one on the left was April the 20th. The one on the right is July the 15th. You can see that there was some progress down there. This is the stage area. Again, photograph on the left is from the 20th of April. The right is the 15th of July. You can see that windows have been installed. The brick has been completed from these photos, July the 15th. Same comparison here. We did our best to get the same, pretty much the same angles on the photos from each month. And then at the top is the conceptual drawing that we received when we first started the project. On the left at bottom, we have the 20th view of this front side of the school, the entrance, and also on the 15th, what that entrance is looking like. So it's starting compared to the picture to shape up and starting to look like the actual drawing itself. This again is the cafeteria side, I believe, of the building. Back in April, there were no bricks, there were no windows. This month, there is some progress with bricks and windows in the building. Interior, we were trying to figure out what to call this interior here. I don't know if we really ever came up with a name. We called it atrium or receiving, waiting room. This is right in the middle of the building. As you go into the main entrance, you will have a circular area, kind of like the new DSC in the what we call the spirit lobby. Now moving on to the Malcolm Rector Center for Advanced Careers and Innovation. On the left is a classroom from April the 20th. The right, we show a classroom from July the 15th, fully furnished. You can see the polished concrete, looks very beautiful. Nice space there. We have two different classrooms here. One's a lab type setting classroom with furniture already installed. The other is just a regular classroom. It's ready to go. This is that big Bay area that we've been talking about for 2 or 3 years now. On the left, again, April the 20th look. On the right, you can see that there's a lot of finishes that have taken place. A lot of space in there. Looks very good. Nice looking concrete. Again, the top picture is the conceptual drawing. We compared to 3 at the bottom. January 29th, April the 20th, and then the July 15th picture that we took last week. And you see that the July 15th picture is starting to shape up to look like that conceptual drawing up top. There's also renovation projects that have began at the high school in the existing CTE bays, automotive shop, wood shop, those areas. Right now, it looks they're doing a lot of demolition work. More renovation photos of the existing building. Moving to McMichael Middle School. Again, the picture on the left, April the 20th, same hallway, July 15th. You see the tile and the doors have been hung, ceiling grids up top. So there is some progress being made there. This is a classroom on the 20th on the left, July 15th on the right, ceiling grid. You can see some casework, meal work that's been done here on the right side. Exterior of the building, this is part of one of the wings that we added the classrooms at the end. Comparison. And this is the new wing. You can see back in January, there were no bricks, there were no air conditioning units. Where in July, they've made quite a bit of progress there. Interior, there was some improvements that needed to be made, some space made available in the cafeteria area on the left. Is a bump out, basically, that is being constructed there. On the right is the cafeteria itself, the existing cafeteria. You see that they have taken the flooring out and will replace VCT. Nope, LVT, wrong acronym. Sorry about that. LVT, all matching.
Mr. Martin, pause there for just a second.
Yes, sir.
Just for the board, this is, when you heard Army speak earlier, this, or Ralph, one of the two mentioned, this is where they're leaning on WRL. When we opened up school, this has to be done because that school is operational and the kids have to eat. So we appreciate the work for them that they're doing on leaning in with WRL. This is a priority. This needs to be done. So it's all hands on deck. And look forward to y'all keeping pressure on them about this for McMichael. So.
Taking a look at Fredonia Elementary, I failed to mention that there's also a priority maintenance projects going on over at McMichael Middle School in the area of HVAC. It was all bundled into one GMP, if you all recall. That work is taking place in addition to the other construction there.
Mr. Martin, just real quick, just for public knowledge and also the board is aware of, did visit with them, but Ralph, can you come up to the mic for just a second? We just had a little bit of a fiasco that happened over at McMichael with that 2-inch rain that happened. Can you explain a little bit of that out? Because that knocked some time off for the construction. So you didn't see a lot of progress that happened there.
It's awesome.
Before we do that, I need to make a quick adjustment here.
Okay. I guess I could use another term other than.
Okay, so at McMichael, we began, as Michael said, we began some heavy maintenance jobs on the HVAC department, rooftop unit replacement. Some of those rooftop units are as big as a small dump truck. They occupy a pretty big space on the roof and need a pretty big crane to lift them. And the older units, you take them off, the new units don't fit on the same way the old units fit on. So there's a time period where you've got the big unit off the roof, but nothing over the hole. They assured us that they would build something over the hole that would keep it from being a fiasco. They were probably okay up to the first inch of rain, but 2 inches of rain, it bowed down in the middle. We got water in the building again. So that's the short story.
And consequently created a lot more damage.
Yeah, consequently, we took 3 steps backwards on that area of the school. And some of that is occupied space that again, they have to get back open and usable before the kids come back. So,
thank you.
Doesn't sound like anything's going right.
One could feel that way, but in all sincerity, McMichael was the biggest challenge. Absolutely, hands down, biggest challenge. We saw pretty early on, we were not going to hit the carpenter date for the fall. So, whether it's October or November, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's moving forward, good quality construction, no significant structural issues or craziness. We've got a dozen other projects that are just going, smooth, absolutely smooth. Capital maintenance projects, BQJ, contractors moved in there and did that work, replaced every piece of HVAC equipment, rooftops, mezzanines, every classroom has a unit. They said they'd have it done in 45 days and they came in and did it in 45 days. So the work at Fredonia is basically on schedule. There's a lot of our jobs that are on schedule. But McMichael is eating our lunch. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, Fredonia Elementary. So this is the topographical map, and the yellow line represents the portions that we had talked about during the bond proposal of changing to a parent drop-off and also changing the flow of traffic and parking lots. This work has started this summer. This is the front of the school, right on Fredonia Street, the parking lot that used to be there.
It's now completely paved.
My picture's about 5 days off. Okay, very good. This is over near the Fredonia House in between the school. Mr. Weinberger was gracious enough to go out and get some pictures early when they were pouring the actual concrete there for the drive. Talked a little bit earlier about the priority maintenance projects that are going on. McMichael HVAC, Mike Moses HVAC and roof should be, and BQJ, Brooks Gwynn Jones HVAC. Here is a very large crane over at McMichael Middle School. Mr. LaRue referred to how large those units are, HVAC units that have to go on the roof. And so they are using a very large crane out there. You probably have passed through the loop, around the loop, and seen that crane up there. The shot on the right was an opportunity Dr. Trio and I had to take a tour up on the roof area and see what was going on and the work they were doing up there. This photo is one of Mike over at Mike Moses. I believe they were working on the roof in this instance. It was late, I think Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. I was over that way and took a shot with an iPhone and decided to put it in the presentation here.
Were they covering up the hole?
I sure hope so. And next, if it pleases the board, I'd like to bring Mrs. Barber to the podium. Board, in your board book, page 114, you have this document that Mrs. Barber is going to go over and talk about just a little bit, okay?
Good evening, President Fitch, board members, Dr. Trujillo. Can I move this down? All right, here's an updated construction budget that, again, he said it's on page 114. You probably have much better chance of reading it than on the screen. This is the same document that was presented to you before. The only difference is now there is a column called adjust, where we are now making budget adjustments as projects are completed into other projects as needed. Of note, I want to bring you down to the bottom. We have a deficit spending so far. And again, this is assuming that future projects will come in as budgeted. We are over budget by $1.2 million. Now, we have some potential future funding that will help us with this deficit. We have been given ESSER funds, and we can use HVAC systems in those ESSER funds. And I have put an asterisk by those projects that we are planning on applying, where we have applied for, to move those funds to ESSER, which would free up, if we do get it, it should free up $7,887,000 from the bond budget. Do you have any questions on this?
Thank you for this presentation and for thinking outside the box and looking for those funding opportunities. And I'm going to be extremely hopeful that our application for the ESSER funds is approved. It will put us in a wonderful position.
Yes, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be approved, but until we do get that official notification, I will not put it on paper yet,
There you go.
in the system yet.
Well, when you get that official notification, you'll have to get Holly to let the board know, because I know we'll all do a little celebration.
Yes.
Thank you.
President Finch, just a little side note with regards to the ESSER funds. This is not something that has been done in isolation. Matter of fact, I've seen a lot of faces out here in the audience and probably some that are out there and in the world of multimedia that have been invited and sitting at the table. This has involved a lot of our directors, coordinators throughout various departments to arrive with the expenditures with ESSER. In full transparency with the community, we took a survey out to the community. The community was able to provide some feedback. We're also looking at getting the final document and putting that document out there so the folks that are in the community can see where are we as a district expending these ESSER resources. And so the public will be able to see that as well. Full transparency, make sure everybody knows what every dollar is being spent, where it's going to go, and the efforts that we're going to have to impact construction, facility, services across the district when we're meeting the needs of our students.
Dr. Troy, the Citizen Bond Committee, they have access to those, or do they periodically check?
I'm sitting so close to you, I can't hear nothing.
Oh,
It's just it's muffled.
Citizen Bond Committee, do they actually get opportunity to go see what is going on?
Yes, sir. What we typically and what we're wanting to make sure of is we've had requests that some of our community members want to know the update for construction.
Right.
So Seabrick and all other entities will get an update, but not before this board gets an update as far as where we're at, what we're doing,
Right.
so that we have one message going out to the community. So Seabrick, the board was able to take a tour,
Right.
and immediately thereafter, Mr. Martin was able to coordinate. We were able to take Seabrick and take them out and look at the facilities as well. When we have the open houses that will be coming up, and they'll be coming up pretty quickly as we start getting through the process, we'll do the same thing, follow the same model where the board will go out, and then we'll have Seabrick come out and take a look at it, as well as any entity in the community wants. to
Okay,
look at it.
the Seabrick, do they give us any information? Do they give us a report, or just go look at the facilities?
No, the charge that Seabrick has been provided is to make sure that we do what we said we're going to
Right.
do with regards to the budget, as far as the construction. So they're basically giving an update that's there. As far as reporting back to the board, that's not something that I understood that the Seabrick was designed to do, to provide feedback to the board. They were designed just to make sure that we comply with what we said we were going to do. And they provide some feedback with Ms. Martin, and that way I can get with the board as far as what we're looking
Right.
as we're progressing.
I was that,
But if we want to do that, we can, however you want to do it. So,
no, I was asked if the Seabrick brings us a report. I said, I don't think so.
No.
Okay, very good.
It's, and I apologize. Up here, it sounds weird because we're
Yes.
in these
That's your
tunnels.
fault.
So,
Dr. Chair, I may have one request. Usually the presentations, we get a copy in Word book. We didn't on this one. Can you have, or can we get distributed a copy of that so we can kind of
Absolutely.
keep that timeline and
Oh,
have that
absolutely.
available?
yes, you're talking about hard copy or,
Electronic is, I'm good with electronic, but I
Okay.
would like a copy of the report.
Okay.
So I can have it.
Holly, can we do that?
Thank you, board.
Any other questions or discussions on this item? Right, hearing none, we'll move to reports item B, RSSP COVID-19 Recovery and Acceleration Plan for school year 2021-2022. Dr. Corley.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, President Fitch, board members, and Superintendent Trujillo. I'm really excited to be here this afternoon to provide an overview that talks about recovery and acceleration plan when it comes to student performance. This is part of a state program called the Resilient School Support Program. So we're being exposed to a lot more acronyms. We call it just the RSSP for short. It is directly aligned with another new acronym that the state has just released that you might have seen communication on, called the Texas COVID Acceleration Supports, or TCLAS. Both of these state initiatives provide customized technical assistance to districts across the state as we develop robust COVID recovery and acceleration plans that could include support and collaboration, networking opportunities, as we develop strategic intervention plans for our students. So I want to begin the presentation with where we are. The program being called RSSP, Resilient School Support Program, is really appropriate. These are live photos from Nacogdoches ISD that show our teachers, our faculty and staff, and our students working really hard throughout the pandemic. Excuse me. Oh, I need to go backwards. Mr. Lumberger, I may need your assistant. No, here I go. Okay, sorry about that. In the school year 2021, Nacogdoches ISD was selected to participate in RSSP among only 50 other school districts across the state of Texas. During this time, our campus team that worked with a technical assistance provider was able to establish what the state calls power moves that included a team approach to develop expectation, roles, and responsibilities for remote work. We were also able to provide ongoing professional development opportunities directly related to digital learning, as well as integrate instructional strategies and routines that focused on differentiation and rigorous instruction. The RSSP team, and some of my colleagues are here with me this evening that participated in that work last year, was instrumental in collaborating with departments, networking with other districts throughout across the state, and also providing a space for our remote teachers to collaborate on a consistent routine basis to share best practices for remote learning. So I apologize. Okay, so for school year 21-22, we were selected for year 2 in the RSSP program. This year, the state accepted 100 districts throughout the state of Texas. So through this partnership, we will continue to focus on the identified power moves that support the utilization of the one-to-one device initiative that we have, along with our learning management systems for student instruction and on-campus instruction. With this state guidance, we'll be able to assure that focus areas such as support for digital resources and digital tools focus on higher order thinking skills. I know one of the things that I was personally confronted with when we shifted to remote instruction was that I had a natural tendency to use digital tools and resources for knowledge and comprehension skills. And so we're really providing support and training and learning ourselves still on how to use higher order thinking skills such as analysis and synthesis
with those tools that we are so fortunate to have access to. So in May, just this past May, the District Advisory Committee completed the Comprehensive Needs Assessment process. This helped us identify specifically what the district needs were, what our strengths are, and strategies that will help us move forward. These district goals are aligned to the state agency's Effective Schools Framework, which is a list of best practices that all districts across the state can follow in incremental levels. So our planning process is outlined here, and it's directly aligned with our comprehensive needs assessment. Through consistent data analysis, we were able, through focus groups, to determine or predetermine student performance based on our local assessment data, specifically our benchmark data that was administered in the spring semester. And then again, by looking at our preliminary state assessment data, we were able to seek specific feedback from our stakeholders through survey opportunities that helped us determine a really targeted focus while considering how these needs could be addressed in the upcoming school year. So now we're going to shift to where we're going for school year 21-22. And you'll see here on this slide, there's 3 different focus areas: early literacy, mathematics, and extended instructional time. For the program purpose, the RSSP program purpose, we have to have a very intentional focus. So you'll see that a prioritized area there is 4th grade math, as well as K-2 early literacy. So based on these findings, district and campus administrators have determined specific instructional resources that have recently been discussed here, amongst ourselves, being Fontes and Pinnell and STEM Scopes, to support the initiatives that are aligned with our district needs. Additionally, a tight-held system that we have in the district includes essential standards. While the state calls this process priority standards, I'm very proud to say that our campus, faculty and staff, administrators, we're going into our 3rd year of identifying and revising essential standards under the leadership of Dr. Hill. That's provided us with a high impact leverage when we're talking about what students need to master at each grade level in each subject area. It also lends itself to the accelerated instructional strategies that are being rolled out by the state at this time. You'll see some highlighted there, coined terms from the state of just-in-time interventions and high-impact tutoring, which I'll elaborate on in just a few minutes. The state release research provides evidence that accelerated learning is best supported through scaffolded instruction and pre-teaching prerequisite on grade level content and skills. Through our talks here in the district, as early as May and June, we've been talking about this mind shift of remediation instruction and how that's different from accelerated instruction. Whereas remediated instruction focuses solely on reteaching concepts and skills that students have not mastered, this acceleration concept focuses on teaching, pre-teaching prerequisite skills to students so that they can engage with peers on grade level content. This guidance has been released by TEA as a best practice to implement for school year 21-22, along with the high impact tutoring strategies that some of you all may have heard about. And the state is providing support and guidance as we really fine tune what that looks like for our district. And we're going to be able to write those into our tightly held systems, of course, having campus variations because our intervention block times are different on each individual campus. So for our reference, we've included district strategies that will help us specify and monitor these tasks. You'll probably be able to make connections to these again next month when we bring our district improvement plan for board approval, including our district goals and our performance objectives. These strategies are also aligned to another plan that Mr. Tarvin has been diligently working on called the Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services Plan. And so I say that because we're aligning many different plans very strategically so that we're not ever having 5 different plans that we're trying to follow. We have specific goals that are aligned to our needs, and we're overlaying those with our initiatives that will best support not only our students, but our teachers. On this slide, it talks about campus teams that will collaborate and utilize the Teach Assess cycle. And this is really cool because those just-in-time interventions will be used in Tier 1 instruction. Teachers will explicitly plan for instruction with formative assessments to check for student understanding. And then they will also plan to utilize the formative assessment data for reteaching opportunities. Master schedules include accelerated instruction during the school day. Here at Nacogdoches ISD for several years that I know of, I would say 5 to 6 years, our campus administrators have built in intervention times during their master schedule. They may be called different things. They may look differently from anywhere from power hour to win time. So the next phases of this plan is really being intentional and what are we doing during that time? I've seen many TEA documents that have been released where they're providing sample schedules of how to block out the intervention time. So I'm very excited that we're already used to those routines and that we have that built already in our master schedule. Now we can solely focus on the instruction that's occurring during those times. And so to finalize the plan, the next section talks about how we'll get there. As you can see, our key stakeholder groups are listed. I already talked to you about the District Advisory Committee going through the comprehensive needs assessment process, but our work is not done. And someone said earlier, school's about to start really soon, and we feel that and we know that, but we have specific times blocked out, like at our administrative retreats and other campus leadership meetings, collaborative planning meetings, to make sure that we know what that looks like and we know how to monitor it and to evaluate it to make sure that what we're doing is working and what we're doing is best for our student performance. So our next steps are outlined here on this chart. And since we are a little bit over mid-July, you can see that one of the requirements of the RSSP is to provide the overview of how we're getting to this point. And so that's why we're here this afternoon. But we will continue to engage in our stakeholders in the development of the plan. That feedback and that perspective is just so incredibly valuable to get different perspectives on what this is going to look like and how detailed it can be and how we will monitor for student success. In closing this afternoon, I'd like to thank our faculty and staff. You'll see teachers here, administrators that worked collaboratively together last year and will continue the work, seeking feedback and making sure that we have accelerated instruction plans in place to address the unfinished learning from COVID-19.
President Finch, if I could add something to Dr. Corley did a tremendous job of presenting the information. For those of us that enjoy a little more reading as to diving into this, all you have to do is look into the new statute. This is House Bill 4545. And I'm telling you, it's a tumbleweed. And when you see the dynamics of aligning the instruction, what House Bill 45 is also looking at, how are we addressing the regression of students, but also what are the rights of our families, of our parents, the student that is not getting the learning. I know that Ms. Abt, you asked retired teachers, how are they playing into this tutoring? House Bill 45 is a monster and it's effective immediately. And some of those are not funded, but they're wonderful little suggestions from TEA. And you know, when TEA makes suggestions, we got to find a way to make it happen. And this team is doing a tremendous job of, you'll find that the ESSER funds have a specific percentage that needs to be directed from the instructional side. So you'll see components of the ESSER fund that are geared in this direction. But in addition to this, I know Dr. Hill is also exploring other funding opportunities that are out there that are tied to this initiative. And by the way, this initiative that we were fortunately aware of last year that we were able to be a partner with actually fits one of the definitions with some of the grants that are out there. So there's additional funding sources that are out there to meet the challenges that we have through partnerships with the Teachers Retired Association, to find tutors through after-school programming, but also most importantly, to align our systems to meet the needs of our students. So House Bill 4545 became live hit stream on June 16th. So if you want to spend a little time reading it, it's a little much when you go through there. But we're listening to the commissioner. Last Thursday, we were listening to him. We'll listen to him again this next Thursday as he dives in a little bit deeper, and TEA providing some support for our folks. So congratulations to the work effort that the team have put together to navigate this and present it. We look forward to the presentation to you all this next month for the next phase of what we're going. So.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up House Bill 4545. I was just looking at the tutoring part and going, oh my goodness. Just want to throw this out there. I'm sure you're aware of that there's some districts that are actually hiring retired teachers on an hourly contractual, something we might, that's probably ESSER funds that we could do. But yeah, retired teachers are also willing to volunteer. I had a question though for you, Dr. Corley. When you were doing stakeholder surveys, how were those done? Is this with like in general, or is it just DAC that you're asking?
No, ma'am. It was part of the RSSP initiative from year one. And it started out specifically on remote instruction and what the needs were. And so we learned a lot from our teachers. We learned what areas they needed that additional professional development in. Even though it was front loaded at the beginning of the year, we wanted to circle back around and provide, because we don't know what we don't know until we get in there and start using it. And so our teachers taught us that, and they also taught us that their method of training that they preferred was, embedded within their job. And because they already had a relationship with their curriculum assistant principal, that they preferred that type of method. In addition to that, we have surveyed parents wanting to know their satisfaction level as far as remote instruction and also on-campus instruction. And we were able to glean some really distinct focus areas from that different perception. And then our final one that we completed late spring was student survey information. That was really neat because it felt like we came full circle. Just getting the input, from different perspectives and what it was like and what could have been better. And so I think it was very constructive. We worked with our technical assistance provider, which is kind of like a liaison between the district and TEA. They're called E3 Alliance. Anyway, they took our survey data and they did a phenomenal job of just breaking down the numbers and putting it into perspective, how we could focus and concentrate on those specific areas.
So this was just addressing our digital,
on campus and remote instruction.
Okay, so these surveys went out though online or were sent home or?
Yes, ma'am. The majority of the survey results were electronic. Yes, ma'am.
And how were parents notified about this? How?
Yes, ma'am. We utilize our services with the communication department, and our campus administrators were really helpful in helping us monitor what those return results were. When we were seeing that if we had low return results, we would, push out a communication directly to you and say, hey, we really need you to encourage some more responses for this. And I cannot, please forgive me, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the parent survey return was very satisfying as far as the response rate.
You anticipated my next question.
Oh.
What was the response? And so you felt comfortable with it, that you got enough to really get feedback.
I
Okay.
did, yes, ma'am. And even the lady we work with, she works with districts nationwide. Her name is Ann Duffy, and she even commented on the return rate as far as, percentage of students based on the parent return rate. So it made me feel very confident
Mhm.
in the results that we got.
And one more thing.
Yes,
Could you email us this PowerPoint thing? I couldn't
Absolutely.
copy things down fast enough. Okay.
yes, ma'am, no
Thank
problem.
you.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
You know, the RSS, the partnership, we applied for the first cycle. They didn't just receive you in the second cycle. You had to apply again in the second cycle. So if we were part of the first cycle and didn't do the work and that is leading forward and doing amazing things, TEA would not have selected us to go on to the second cycle. The other thing to pay close attention to is who we're in the network with. This is not by yourself. This is a relationship that our team has in Nacogdoches. I looked at some of my former sites up there in the Dallas area. Grand Prairie was one of the lists that's in there. So we're able to build a relationship with other systems and find out what are they doing and how are they doing? How are they reaching out for parents? How are they getting communication back? At the same time, they get to come to us and say, how are you getting that great feedback, and be able to set that model up. So this is a model that the state is looking at, and Nacogdoches ISD gets to be in the forefront, to shine this out and really showcase what we're doing to align our systems for our students. So we're excited about that. And I might add one other thing. I thought maybe Dr. Hill had a relationship with somebody in Austin or TEA, because she put a line item before House Bill 4545 about how much it was going to cost to tutor. And I don't know if Dr. Hill remembers this conversation I had with her. And I said, have you lost your mind? This is a lot of money. Well, we find out that House Bill 4545 came out, and the tutoring monster, just so we understand, the new dynamic says that if a student has dropped back, the teacher of record can only have 3 students to tutor. And if we have a group of 21 kids that fall behind, 21, small number, that means you need 7 teachers to do this. And so in order to accomplish 4545, you had to have done something with regards to the budget. And so I applaud the team for being able to see the foresight of what may be coming. But what this tells me is House Bill 4545 was coming. But here in Nacogdoches, we didn't need House Bill 4545 telling us what we needed to do to catch our kids up. We were preparing for assisting our teachers to provide the support that we need to have to meet the instructional needs of our kids. So I applaud the efforts that we've done to help us. So.
And did I understand it correctly that tutoring has to be outside of the school day, like before or after school?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking, transportation. It's crazy.
Transportation is a big component. I think Dr. Hill has something out there.
The school day,
Oh, it can? Okay.
Yeah.
before
didn't-
school, after school, Saturday school. It can
Oh,
also
it's
take
just
place
opening
during
up
summer
in
learning as well.
addition to the school day. Okay, okay. Phew.
What you run into is, what are you going to push aside during the school day in order for tutoring to happen? Because everything instructionally is pretty important. So you're going to have to be very dynamic as far as what you're providing in the services.
But that's the good thing that Dr. Corley was talking about, where our principals anticipated it and have for many years had a designated period already in,
Yeah,
in
they're
their school
called
day.
different
So we
things, yeah.
didn't have to go back to the drawing board and
Mhm.
redesign our master schedules.
Mhm,
Some poor
mhm.
districts are having to do that. We did not. It's just now that we can really focus on what are we doing in those interventions and focus on the accelerated learning.
Yeah.
So my question kind of comes back to the data. I've recently seen the TEA data about I think we locally kind of returned it as the COVID slide. When can we expect to see some of this data?
So
for
we
our
are seeing it
local-
next month.
Okay.
When we did our student outcome goals, I believe you guys adopted them in January, if I'm not mistaken. There's a calendar at the, I think that was the second, the addendum, and we said we would do it in August. That's when we should have, right up until to this point, it's still been preliminary.
Okay,
And so we didn't want to, so it's next month.
okay.
Next
And the
month.
preliminary data, is it equivalent to what the state has reported?
So what the state has reported has just been overall correct. I mean, it's just been a statewide percentage.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
go ahead,
But,
Dr. Corley.
They presented a statewide summary that provided information as far as grade level and subject area. And so what we were able to do for our purposes is to look at the preliminary data that in the same view that the state had analyzed their data, comparing 2019 state assessment results to 2021, and with the understanding that that's not the same cohort of students, and that there's many, many variables, of course, that we all know about for 2021. But we did identify the difference in 2019 and 2021 to determine how wide those gaps were.
Mhm.
And our data was not only consistent with the state, but it was consistent with our benchmark analysis that we
Mhm.
conducted locally. And so what we're seeing across the board is larger gaps in math.
Okay.
And that's what
Yeah.
a lot of the research nationwide is also saying. I just
Yeah.
found it so interesting.
For those that may not, the results that I saw from TEA, it was looking, I think, from 2012 forward, and you can see the steady gain across the state in both reading and math. But math took the hardest hit with about a 15 point decline, dropping 2019 levels were at 50% of meets, and it dropped down to 35%.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's very alarming. So I'm very anxious to see how our Nacogdoches students fared, and what kind of slide we're talking about.
It's a slide.
I have a question for you, Dr. Corley. At this time last year, Nacogdoches ISD was not a one-to-one device district for the students. Is that correct? We didn't have a device for every student last year at this time.
That's what we did.
But this year, we do have every student, no matter where they are, and they have their own device. It's new. So I saw that they talked about one-to-one instruction near the end of the presentation. How is the fact that we are now on the cutting edge of technology and for every student and they can take it home, how is that going to help us to achieve our goals with these programs?
I want to go back and think more about the higher order thinking skills and that application piece, because instead of just learning isolated skills, I'm going to be able to take my learning to a higher level and apply it in real world situations or simulated activities that I wouldn't otherwise have had the opportunity if I didn't have the one-to-one device or the learning management system that we currently have.
That translates into it's going to help every student to do better. And that's what we
Yes,
want.
absolutely.
It
Great.
helps. It helps, but I will tell you, I mean, there is research out there that says technology is just supplemental to the core instruction. It's not necessarily going to take us leaps and bounds, but it does help, right? But where, like Dr. Corley was talking about, if we continue to stay at that knowledge and remembering state, we're never going to get to the analysis and evaluation. So that's why we've got to take what we have and continue to increase, not only increase our students' capacity, but increase our teachers' capacity. And like Dr. Corley said, it's so new for even all of us that we're having to learn alongside our teachers, which is ever more important to include them in the dialogue so that they can help us let us know what their needs are, so that then we can get them in touch with the right supports. Right.
What's, we're going to really move the needle, and I'm going to use this as an example in our car. When we're driving in our car, you look down, you don't have to keep staring at your gas gauge. You look at your gas gauge, you know you got a quarter of a tank, you don't have to look back for a while. But what you can't do is every once in a while, you have a speedometer that you have to look at because there's the speed changes. And what you heard Dr. Corley mention just now is STAR test is one thing. STAR test is looking at the meter and saying, I got a full tank of gas. I know I don't have to worry about that for another maybe 400 miles if we got a good mile per hour. But if I'm driving, it's the benchmark, it's the alignment. As we're going, it's the lead measures. It's what's happening right now, not the lag, it's the lead measures. And what we heard, and I want to make sure that we highlight, is the data is there for the STAR and what we're doing. But what was very powerful is that our benchmarks, that's what's powerful, is Nacogdoches ISD and the work of our leaders, our principals that are sitting in here and working with their teachers and instructional leaders, is they're aligning and making sure that the benchmark, when we give it to the kids, early in the year, does it align to what the state is measuring? Is it giving us valuable data? And if the benchmark is not any good, then when you get to the end, we've been chasing a rabbit into another hole. But we've got to make sure as the benchmarks are aligned. And what we're finding out is, in Dr. Corley's report, is when we look at the state data and we look at the benchmarks, we're able to see that there is alignment. And we can celebrate that, tweak it, adjust it based on whatever tweaks, adjustments happen or changes, and then be able to do that. That's what makes our teachers masterful in the classroom, is they know that what we're measuring at a benchmark is going to give them good data. So I use the example of the car. When you look at your speedometer, you know the speed, you know this, you're going that speed. It's the same thing with a teacher in the classroom. When they look at the data, they know that they're on target and they're able to keep going forward and know that they can align themselves. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that Dr. Corley just mentioned that, and I wanted to make sure that that's a very powerful statement, that our benchmark, that our blueprint of instruction and the lesson plans and the assessments, they're all aligned as we're going along the year. Yeah, good job.
Any additional questions on the presentation? Nope, hearing none, that'll take us to our last item on the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move with Bill Jordan.
Thank you, Reverend. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Nearmont. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.